Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. This is Dave on the Daily Dave. I hope you are doing spectacular. I have something that popped up in my email that I wanted to jump on here, create a Daily Dave, and send it out into the world so that you are up to date on some of the information that's coming through about podcasting, specifically around YouTube and podcasting. Now, just so you know, there's going to be some people that are going to not be happy with this news, but I wanted you to know about it. It has an impact on you and your show and your plans. And here's why I'm thinking that it's important for you. I have many people in my inbox right now battling with the idea of whether to have a video podcast or an audio podcast, or both. And they're trying to figure out what kind of a gear they should buy, programs they should buy, editing that they need, storage solutions. Primarily for those with a video podcast, it's going to cost a lot of money to do a video podcast and do it well and compete with all the other video podcasts, which have a limited scope as far as availability because you have to be on only certain platforms that actually support video podcasts. So keep that in mind, okay? It's not universally available as an audio podcast is. So if you want to do video and that's your background, awesome. If you're a new podcaster and you don't have any background in audio or video, where should I start? I'm going to tell you to start with audio first. As an introvert, as someone, maybe you don't want to get all dressed up and fancy and do your hair and everything to be seen on camera. You just want to do audio. It's the easiest way to get started. So that's my personal opinion on that, and mileage will vary depending on what you want to do. But in relation to YouTube, very interesting. It came out through Pod News in an email just today that YouTube is definitely jumping into the pool and going to cause some waves by doing so into podcasting. So this is from the amazing James Cridlin over at Pod News. I'll have links to Pod News. You should sign up for this email and scan through it as it comes through, because James is a hero in podcasting and presents not just the US side of podcasting. Predominantly, most of the news we get about podcasting is US based. I'm in Canada. A lot of it doesn't relate to me about politics and la-di-da-da-da-da-da. I skip over all that. Doesn't mean anything to me at all. So James is great because he pulls in a global view of podcasting. I love his emails, and here's what he was talking about. In the most recent one, it says YouTube will fully support the ingestion of RSS feeds. Dave, don't know what that means. When we create our podcast, we give it to our host, and it goes out into the world as an RSS distribution. We talked about the library approach, right? All of that. Many episodes to talk about that. Anyways, our podcast goes out through a host. We don't send it to Apple. Our host sends it, and Apple works with them. That's kind of how that works. RSS, how your podcast gets into the world for audio, video, and even PDFs, which I don't even know people even use PDFs anymore. But YouTube is going to ingest, bring in your RSS feed into YouTube. And this is going to happen by the end of the year. It was announced at Podcast Movement, which I don't go to because I live in Canada, by the product lead for podcasting at Google. And he was speaking on stage, I guess, there at the conference. Basically, within the YouTube Music app, podcasts are currently available in the US, of course, Canada, and Latin America, and are on track to complete a global rollout by the end of the year, including a podcast section on the website. The company is also planning additional analytics and improved delivery and search of podcasts. Search of podcasts. Again, for those in the back of the room, search of podcasts. Especially for those users who have engaged with podcast content. Interesting, as I rub my hands. If you've ever interacted with podcast content on YouTube, guess who's going to get some more podcast suggestions? My fingers are tapping as like an evil little yee. This is good news. Pod News has also learned that YouTube Music updates to expect relatively soon are show-level auto downloads. And you'll also be able soon to add any RSS feed to your YouTube Music app, even private RSS feeds. Did you know that you can have your own private RSS feed that you can set up for your coaching program and only give it to limited access to limited people for them to learn more about your coaching and do your 10 steps? You can have a podcast on a specific RSS feed away from your regular content just for specific users. You can actually bring that RSS feed into YouTube and access your content there. Very interesting. So the person that was speaking also stressed to creators that for best results, you should mark your show playlist as a podcast in YouTube Studio, which is what I've been telling you to do for a while now. And if you're stuck and you don't know how to do this, I actually walk you through the process in a past episode, but I will do this on Zoom with you one-on-one. You pull up your screen and I'll show you where to click. Okay? I promise I'll help you. We can do this together. Okay? I'm excited about this. It's really cool. So make sure you mark your podcast as your playlist as a podcast in YouTube Studio, and this will unlock additional places where your show will be promoted. Did you hear that word? On YouTube, your podcast being promoted. Doesn't that sound good? Doesn't it sound good to hear that your podcast will have improved discoverability and search for podcasts and be promoted on YouTube? So, if you haven't done it yet, grab a Google Gmail account. Create a Gmail account, and you will get access to your own YouTube channel by doing so. That's it. Go make a new... You can make it with the name of your podcast. You can make it whatever you want. But let's go in and create your own channel on YouTube. If you haven't done it yet, create a playlist by uploading your podcast with static image, not video. Again, if you're struggling with video and you're like, Dave, I can't do video. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can just do a static image post. Get your playlist up, convert that playlist into a podcast on YouTube, and continue to create your podcast, send it out through an RSS feed so everyone outside of the walls of YouTube can still listen to your show. You're going to be on Audible. You're going to be on Google, Spotify. You're going to be on Apple. You're going to be on all the hosts of all these other players around the world. I can get your podcast on a podcast app in Africa called AfriPods. Why not? They're looking for English-speaking podcasts. And if you're an English-speaking podcaster, why would you not be there? It takes like less than 5 minutes and you are set up, and anyone within the continent of Africa can listen to your podcast on their own app. Please, let me help you do this. You can be found. So send your podcast out through a traditional RSS feed. Get a host. I use Buzzsprout. Love Buzzsprout. I also use Spotify for podcasters. I have 4 shows there. And there's a lot of different ones you can use, but those are the 2 that I use. Get an RSS feed. Send your podcast out into the audio world. Do it now. And then also, don't ignore YouTube. If YouTube's going to put time, effort, money, energy around creating a good experience for listeners of podcasts, then you should be on YouTube. The big thing I want everyone to understand about how podcasts get to our audience, it's not about the tech. It's not about doing things one way because we've always done it one way. It's all about what the user wants. So if we say that podcasts can only be done one way and our audience goes in a different direction, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose some of your audience. Maybe a big chunk of your audience. So, create a traditional podcast through an RSS feed. Do that. Please do that. Create a YouTube channel, a playlist, convert it to a podcast, and be ready, because something great is going to happen as YouTube assists your audio feed by also hosting over there as well. You want to be here. You want to be ahead of the curve. Don't wait. If you need help, howtopodcast.ca, and I'll have a link to this article and a link to Pod News where you can go sign up and get these emails. And you can read this for yourself as it happens. Go do it. Go do it now. And if you need help, I'm always here to help you. Always here to answer questions. I'm not here to sell you a $10,000 package to work with me. No, I'm here to help you, because there's way too many people with their hands out looking for your money in podcasting. I'm here to help you. And remember, podcastforfree.com is a list of all the free things that I have that I use for podcasters. The tools that I use to create my show. Podcastforfree.com, howtopodcast.ca. Dave, that's too many call to actions. I know. I'm just excited. If you need help, let me know. Talk soon. Catch you on the next episode.